Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to Rebinge It. This is the Rebinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
We are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 2, Episode 7, Parturition, which was a word I had to look up and ask Google how to pronounce. This episode aired October 9th, 2024. No, that's what it says, but I think it was 1995.
That makes more sense. I don't remember a late episode of Voyager.
No, that hasn't aired yet, because it is not yet October.
Why keep us in suspense? What does the word mean, Kim?
Oh, I don't remember. It was something about having a baby or giving birth or something. I'm like, what is with this stupid word that nobody uses?
Well, at least they didn't use a Latin one.
Yeah. Before we talk about this episode, anything to say about last week's episode, which was Twisted, I think?
They could have at least put in the musical number.
In Twisted?
Yeah, Twist and Shout.
Oh. I welcome any musical number in Star Trek at any time.
Yeah, fit in, twist and shout would be perfect.
And, they could have used the excuse that the thing that was like twisting them up in space and screwing them up made them all sing.
That's true. As we've seen in Strange New Worlds, strange spatial anomalies will make you do that.
I was listening to a podcast today with Dr. Erin McDonald, one of the science advisors for Star Trek, for the current Star Trek. And she said that sometimes, because Star Trek is episodic, you just go, well, not so much in Discovery.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just go, well, we don't really have time to explain the complicated science. Let's just, say here's a solution, and we just never bring it up again, and we just move on, and everything is fine.
Yeah.
And so she said that was her recommendation for the musical episode of Strange New Worlds, to not try to science it. But they insisted they wanted a science reason for the singing, so that was actually quite funny.
Oh, man. Well, I think an equally valid reason is the musical theater dimension was starting to encroach into the Enterprise.
That would be funny if one of the many other universes, parallel universes, it was just everybody just sang all the time.
Oh, thinking about it, there's the race that speaks in metaphors. The TNG episode where they end up on the planet and they can't understand what they say. I can't think of what it's called right now.
Darmok.
Oh, right. Exactly. Well, you could have an alternative where humans actually do perform all the actions. So instead of speaking normally, you sing everything. It has to be part of a song.
Yeah, why not?
Because you could have a really funny episode where you crossed over into that dimension. And when people are just talking, the other alternative Enterprise crew is looking at them like, what are you saying? None of this makes sense.
I mean, there was a little of that mixed into the Strange New Worlds episode, I guess. Yeah. We could do that on every show.
Oh, I'd love to see the Lower Decks one.
Yeah, I'm sure that show is as full of musical theater nerds as Strange New Worlds.
Well, shall we talk about this episode?
We should. I think we're putting it off because it's not a great episode. It's got some problems. Although I will say this right up front, it's not as bad as I expected it to be after you told me, oh, no. And I was like, uh-oh, but it's not that bad.
Yeah,
well,
this is not one of my go-back-to episodes.
The beginning is that bad, but the ending is not quite that bad. So now if I've really got you geared up to listen to the rest of this episode.
Yeah, people will now just be skipping to the rating.
But, we have to do it. For those people who don't want to watch it, you can just listen to us talk about it. Yeah. And we're doing the Lord's work. We're saving you from having to watch bad things by bringing humor to it.
Yes.
And we'll take lessons from it, and then we'll just move on. Okay.
In the interest of balance, insert your favorite deity or non-deity into that statement.
Exactly. In the cold open, we have Tom and Kes on a shuttle having some kind of emergency.
Yep.
Turns out Tom is training Kes on piloting a shuttle. During the simulation, the ship shakes and she falls into Tom's lap right out of a teen drama. Anyway, she falls into his lap briefly, where he looks at her with this sort of confused look, or maybe a look of longing. She takes no notice. And then later, when they leave the holodeck, Neelix sees them laughing and enjoying themselves. And we already know that he's a jealous idiot, so it's not good.
Yeah, he's a problem boyfriend.
Now we go to a whole new Captain Janeway. Where did this hairstyle come from? Just no warning. The bun is gone. She's looking quite jaunty.
Okay, I have a theory here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the writers were worried about this episode, so they can claim, because Janeway looks so different, that this actually isn't Voyager. This is a parallel dimension version of Voyager, so we can just write this episode off. Oh yeah, that wasn't actually Janeway. That was a parallel Janeway. The giveaway is the hair.
It's not that bad. Although I do think it's like she has a lot of hair now. Yeah. I don't know. I people who know me knows I have a hair phobia. I can't do anything about it. At least when it was in the bun, it was contained. Here it's kind of out of control. But anyway, Kes's hair is very good in this episode, but I'm not so sure what I feel about this hairstyle yet.
I wonder if Kate Mulgrew was just fed up with the bun.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was a lot of talk of her hair.
Yeah.
It's the reason I bring it up. It's because there was so much talk about her hair. And she's brought it up in, when she's been on panels and things, that there was so much focus on her hair.
Well, this is more like how the actress actually keeps her hair when you see her in live events and things.
Like at the time. It's a bit shorter now than it was here in this episode. Well, she tells Chakotay, we're down to 30% of capacity on our food reserves, which seems extremely bad. Chakotay says they found an M-class planet with high amino acid and protein readings, which seems good because it indicates plant life, but it's a full day out of the way, and long-range sensors can't seem to read anything on the surface because it's shrouded by some EM disturbances. And, I mean, have we learned nothing about planets we can't scan? Why do we think this is a good idea? So Janeway looks at the readings, and she thinks it's like a primeval Earth. And she learns that the people in stellar cartography have nicknamed it Planet Hell. Again, reasons not to go abound.
It does seem like there are a lot of red flags already.
Didn't Prodigy have something like this? Not Planet Hell. Murder Planet. Remember?
Oh, isn't that what we nicknamed the episode? Yeah.
No. They called it Murder Planet in the episode. Because it kept trying to kill them.
Oh, with the vines thing.
The vines. Yeah, the vines episode. It's so funny watching Voyager now because I keep seeing little things that are in Prodigy. Either they're actual Easter eggs or I'm making them up. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's just sort of fun now to go back and watch Voyager having seen a season of Prodigy.
They've got to be nods back to Voyager.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because we had one last week, right? Yeah, where they had the moment where it looked like they were all going to get killed, which was something or kind of going into the unknown, which is absolutely something that happens at the end of season 1 Prodigy. Maybe I'm just going to make stuff up in every episode. I'm going to find a link.
Oh, hey, kind of thing I do. Perfect.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Murder Planet. Well, anyway, we've wandered down another path. Janeway says, even though we're not sure what we'll find, we'd better check out Planet Hell.
Oh, dear.
And, this just does not seem like a good decision. But here we go. And we cue the theme song. Now we go to Harry practicing his clarinet, which he has replicated.
Yeah. Can he actually play it?
I don't know. I was trying to tell if he was playing.
Yeah.
And there was one part where it looked like he definitely was not playing, but I'm not sure. Never played a clarinet, so I don't know how hard it is, but I'm sure it's not easy.
No.
Tom comes in. He's feeling tortured over his newfound feelings for Kes. Ugh, Tom.
Dear.
Harry's like, dude.
This actually is the third clarinet that Harry has replicated because the other two he broke over Tom's head trying to beat some sense into him.
I'm not sure Tom deserves a friend as good as Harry. Harry is like too pure. Maybe that's why Tom keeps going to see him. Like, please straighten me out. My life is a mess.
Yeah. This is so reminiscent of Tom and that whole speech about you meet the one who's the problem, the woman you should never fall in love.
Oh my God.
You know what the trick there is,
so
Tom?
dumb.
I'm pretty sure Harry could repeat the advice there. You know what the trick is, Tom? Don't be a dumbass.
Yes.
And then hit him with the clarinet.
Tom suggests he needs to avoid being alone with Kes. This is his solution. And Harry says, there's an old Chinese expression, stay out of harm's way. Tom says, that's not a Chinese expression. This is quite cute. But basically, Harry's like, please stay away from this problem. Please don't get mixed up in this.
Yeah.
Harry then tries to be really annoying by playing happy music right in Tom's face, which is, the mark of a true friend.
Yep.
Later, Neelix and Kes are having dinner, and Kes is talking about how much she enjoyed her shuttle lesson. And Neelix is trying really hard not to be openly jealous, but it is showing all over his face.
Yeah.
And Kes notices he's being weird, but doesn't say anything. At least I think that's what's happening. There's like this long scene at the end of the scene where she's just staring at him.
I know. I just find this whole thing just bad soap opera cheesy. It's like the Miles O'Brien Keiko writing where it would just totally get on my nerves because it was so drama writing 101. Okay, rant time.
Oh.
You have a whole ship full of former Marquis, who are opposed to the Federation and have their own stories. And you have Starfleet, of which there's a lot of true believers. And this is the conflict storyline. Rather than something 1,000 times more interesting and more important to the story, you go to a petty jealousy story that wouldn't be out of place in a bad sitcom.
I do think that's what makes it annoying, is not the fact that this part of the story just exists, but because there is something else we could be using for conflict.
Right.
And look, Star Trek is not great at relationships. It just isn't. And really a lot of TV and movies aren't great at making a relationship story interesting without putting something in there to make it seem like it's falling apart. I mean, we're watching a show right now where you and I talk about it all the time. Like, this relationship makes no sense. Yeah. And to us, it just doesn't feel real. And it's like we're trying to stick in conflict. And the conflict we know is, jealousy. It's like, boring.
Right. I feel you could do this as a subtle side story of Neelix dealing with it, but not being like an overwhelming story.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, when it comes up in the A stories, it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
And you're right, because there are so many other opportunities for drama on the ship, but also because I feel like, at least now, if this were a current show not being done 30 years ago, we would expect that he would maybe be getting some kind of counseling. And there's no counselor on the ship, but he had that one conversation, right, with Chakotay about it. What a great opportunity for him to be talking it through with someone. Doesn't have to be Chakotay, could be whoever, could be Tuvok, which would be interesting. But if they kind of showed that on the side that he felt that, he was insecure and he was trying to deal with it, it could still be a really interesting story. But when he's making faces and, he just looks like a toddler, it's so ridiculous.
What you say there leads me on to something. The Doctor, he must have access to counseling books and he has a learning program. So maybe the Doctor could read up on counseling.
Well,
he could have been kind of funny in that situation. Although he could also be absolutely terrible.
Yeah, because he gives some pretty horrible advice later in this episode.
Well, that's because he hasn't read the books on it.
But also remember his interpersonal skills were tested by Barclay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. He'd need to learn counseling from... and of course, again, because it's Star Trek, he's going to learn from Freud. Moving on. Now we arrive at Planet Hell, or Murder Planet, and we read high levels of trigemic vapors, which I'm pretty sure is made up. The Doctor calls to say he's been eavesdropping on their conversation. But first he has to complain that he wouldn't have to eavesdrop if he were included in these important conversations in the first place. And that brings out the Janeway eye roll. My absolute favorite thing so far about Voyager is the eye roll.
That also, I feel there's an element here with Janeway of excuse me, I just checked the org chart and apparently the captain is at the top.
Yeah. And you listening in is making me a little uncomfortable.
I would agree with his sentiment, though. He does make the comment of things that could affect crew safety, medical needs. He should be being briefed on these things.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, he should be part. I mean, we talked about it in season 1. I don't know what they've done about it, but he should be part of senior staff conversations. But like when Janeway leans over and has a quiet conversation with her first officer, he should not be listening.
Yes, that's true. It should be limited to those strategy planning with the senior staff rather than listening to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that.
He says these vapors can cause severe skin irritation, so he's whipping up some sealant that the crew can use on their skin to protect themselves. Janeway thanks him and then asks how often he eavesdrops on conversations, and it turns out quite a lot. So she says, knock it off, and then she hangs up on him.
It was a fun piece of acting, the way he was sort of squirming, trying to avoid answering that question.
Yes.
Like a naughty child.
But then he also does I'm a doctor, not a voyeur phrase, the Bones phrase.
He really sells it. I love it.
Well, then B'Elanna announces that they can't transport to the surface or communicate with anyone on the surface because of, who knows, some technobabble.
Yeah.
So just like usual, right? We can't do anything except send a shuttle down.
I'm surprised Janeway isn't going, oh, I'm there. First shuttle, I want to go down.
No, there's nothing to shoot. She doesn't want to be gathering plant life.
Maybe you could manipulate her to going by saying there might be something to shoot that we could eat.
I don't know that she wants to hunt.
I'd see Janeway as a hunter.
I don't know about that. In the mess hall, Tom and Harry walk in and they see Kes. Tom tries to vacate, but she sees them and waves excitedly at them. And then Neelix offers his Alfarian hair pasta, which just looks like someone made spaghetti and tomato sauce, but turns out it's actually hair, which is, again, remember, I have a hair phobia, and this is quite revolting to me.
I was laughing out loud at that point because I'm like, that is like a nightmare for Kim.
Ugh. Harry is called to the bridge, leaving Tom sitting by himself at a table with Kes right behind him. Tom tries to act all nonchalant, but Neelix is just glaring at him.
Yeah.
And then Kes gets up and leaves, so Neelix comes over to Tom saying it doesn't fool him that they were sitting with their backs to each other, pretending to be strangers. Tom says he has nothing to worry about, and then their stunt doubles get into a spaghetti slinging battle where Neelix does say that he's going to kill Tom.
I believe they should have played some comedy music at this point.
Yeah, the plates of spaghetti to the chest, followed by the rolling around of two individuals who are nowhere near the same size and build as the two actors.
It was good to see in just a few seconds of eating the pasta, Tom had managed to significantly bulk up.
Yes. Well, in the middle of this ridiculous fight, Janeway calls for both of them to come to her ready room immediately, so there's no time to change. I would think there's some quick answer to this in Star Trek where they can beam into new uniforms or run through a car wash sort of thing or something. Because the reason I say that is because I have to believe that that outfit that they're wearing is not just spandex. I mean, we talked about it on Deep Space Nine about it regulating temperature, but there's also got to be a way for it to just get rid of stains and, you know what I mean, or repel stains.
It could be just that even 400 years in the future, tomato sauce is the ultimate enemy of all fabrics.
Yeah, for sure. Now in Janeway's office, she is looking them up and down suspiciously and asks if they'd like to explain why they're covered in spaghetti and looking quite rumpled. Tom declines. So Janeway moves on. Turns out she needs the two of them to go to the planet together in a shuttle. She needs her best pilot and her expert on edible plant species.
Yeah.
They try to talk her out of it, but she's like, no. And then she says, am I discerning a personal problem here, gentlemen? And Neelix says, frankly, yes, Captain. And then she appropriately and very firmly says, solve it. You leave at 1400 hours.
That was a good captain's moment there.
Boss moment. Yeah, I believe this is the exact right way to handle this.
Yeah.
Total boss behavior. And I mean that in the best possible sense, which is, are you kidding me? Get over it. And also we have to remember that we're not supposed to be dealing with conflicts within the ranks of Starfleet. Now, granted, Neelix is not in Starfleet, but this isn't something that would supposedly the captains would be dealing with, personal grudges against people. We know, of course, that there are always personal grudges against people, and there's no way to evolve out of that.
I think to quote the great Mars O'Brien, he admits he's not perfect, but the goal with the Federation, with Starfleet, with the evolved humans, is to try to be better. It's almost like the way the Vulcans suppress their emotions. It's like you should be using your intellect to suppress the negative aspects, or not maybe suppress them, to deal with them.
Yeah.
To not act on the negative impulses, as it were.
Right.
Before we leave the scene, I'm just disappointed that at the end, Tom couldn't ask, can we bring Kes?
That would have been funny. In a meeting later, B'Elanna and Harry talk about the EM disturbances on planet Hell, saying there may be some occasional atmospheric windows allowing them to get transporters through. But those windows are like every 30 hours or something, so not terribly convenient. Neelix and Tom now have clean uniforms here, by the way, and Neelix is making ridiculous faces through this entire conversation like he is a toddler.
Yeah.
Janeway tells Neelix and Tom when they go to the planet to collect as much food as possible while they're there. Kes then accosts Neelix in the hallway outside of this meeting and asks Neelix to explain what the fight in the mess hall was all about.
Yep.
Neelix avoids it completely and heads to the shuttle bay. He says they'll talk about it when he gets back.
Not really a good look.
No, not mature.
No.
Now, Kes goes to sickbay, and she is in a foul mood.
Oh, yeah.
The doctor doesn't know what to do about it, and eventually Kes tells him that Neelix and Tom had a fight over her, and the doctor just stupidly suggests that it's a high compliment for men to fight over the love of a woman.
Well, the doctor is being very odd here, although I did like it when he was pushing her to find out what was wrong. And he says, I'm sorry, it's in my program. I see something wrong. I attempt to cure it.
I did like that he suggested she had low blood sugar. That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, though, everything from here is bad. I mean, This is what happens when Lieutenant Barclay is in charge of your interpersonal skills.
Yeah, but where would the doctor get that from? That, oh, how delightful.
It's like, do you remember on Deep Space Nine when sometimes Odo would say crazy things like that and they put it down to him reading those old crime novels?
Oh.
So what's the doctor reading? That's what I meant earlier when I said, if he's going to read about counseling, Star Trek's going to pull out Freud. It's that kind of thing.
Okay, maybe Janeway's been giving him time off. Maybe he's been playing her holo novels or reading her novels and going, oh.
Well, he has been in the holodeck.
Yeah, 18th century morals. Let's fight a duel over Lady whoever her name is.
Yeah, because he's talking about duels. That's so stupid.
Oh, that was funny, though, the thing with the duels. I have autopsy reports back to 1538. I know you like autopsies.
This is such a highly unfortunate conversation, though. I mean, it's a step backwards from how far the show advances us, past some of the early stuff of Deep Space Nine with the treatment of women. We've stepped all the way back to sort of, again, this high school nonsense, especially when the doctor says that Tom desires Kes, and it's obvious to everyone because his physiology changes. Yeah. But he essentially accuses her of not wanting to see it or not being experienced enough to see it. And is just such a demeaning... It's just, I really want to swear. That's how bad it is. It's so dumb. It's the dumbest of the dumb conversations. Yeah. So I'm just going to move on.
Weird coming from the doctor. Leaving that behind.
Now we go to the shuttle heading to planet Hell. Lots of technobabble. In fact, Neelix even calls what Tom says technobabble in this scene. Thought that was pretty funny.
Nice.
Tom suggests they put their personal nonsense aside until the mission is over, but Neelix just continues to act like a total baby.
Well, yeah, it seems to fit.
Eventually, we start to crash, and Neelix starts panicking. Tom tries to abort the mission, but he can't get them out of the descent.
Yeah.
Voyager is unable to communicate with the shuttle and is only able to pick up a signal showing a steep descent, which is never a thing you want to hear. Chakotay checks in on the transporter progress, but we still can't transport, so Janeway says this is now a search and rescue operation.
The emergency landing and problem with the shuttle was pretty strange. Normally, they shake the screen a little bit, but this went full Bourne Identity. It was like they were throwing the camera around. It was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It was a real departure from sort of the Star Trek trope of shake the camera a bit and run from side to side.
So the shuttle has crashed, and it looks pretty bad. But, I mean, parts of it still look salvageable.
So we've lost another one?
Yeah, well, they could have beamed up some of the parts.
I think if we look in Voyager's shuttle bay, I mean, I'm pretty sure 2/3 of the ship must have actually been made up with shuttles.
I think there's something to be said for they could actually create these shuttles with replicators.
Well,
I mean, that's a thing on Prodigy, but it's just not something we focus on because it's just not interesting.
We don't need to for the story.
And we didn't think of it until later when we had Prodigy. But remember, we gained one shuttle from Jetrel.
That's true.
I think we could have beamed up this shuttle and repaired it because it wasn't blown up, but it was crashed.
Okay.
And that was somebody else's job. They weren't in the A story. That was the C part of the story.
This was the C story that got cut.
Exactly.
A group of folks in one of the shuttle bays going, we got to repair another one.
So the hull of the shuttle is leaking. So Tom and Neelix are getting hit by the aforementioned trigemic vapors and their skin is itching.
Yeah.
Neelix continues to panic, but Tom has that sort of usual Star Trek optimism, knowing that Voyager is looking for them and isn't going to just give up.
If the worst thing it does is just make your skin itch, that's not really a big deal.
No, but it's just annoying. Tom says exposure to the vapors is too dangerous, so they have to leave the shuttle, ordering Neelix to go with him. And they eventually end up hiding in a cave after bickering and not finding any food.
Tom is really needling Neelix about his cooking, which leads me on to, I wonder how it compares to Quark's.
Well, Quark doesn't cook.
Yeah, but he did serve as a cook on a Ferengi ship, and that was the story of how he ended up having to carry a phaser.
That's right, I forgot about that.
As you said, I'm surrounded by food critics.
Up on Voyager, Kes is worried. I mean, if both of them are dead, she has no boyfriend.
Hey, Harry's available.
And she tells Harry
well, relatively.
And she tells Harry she's upset because she was mad at both of them when they left, and now she feels guilty.
Oh.
This scene is kind of dumb, though. Why would Harry be here and not working to solve the problem with the transporters and all the other stuff that's going on?
Yeah, you'd think this would be crunch time if ever there was one.
Exactly.
And plus, it's his friend. If your friend was lost, wouldn't you be like working 24 hours to try and find what happened to him, save him? Especially if he's in danger.
This episode so far, I mean, it's just not very good until this point. It gets better, I think, from here.
Yeah, it seems like some of the characters are behaving in inconsistent ways.
Now Voyager's hit by something and Chakotay calls for battle stations. Back down on the planet, Neelix and Tom seal themselves in a cave for safety away from the itchy vapors. Neelix tries to make small talk. Turns out Tom got a B- in survival skills. That actually kind of made me laugh.
Yeah.
But it was in a class taught by his father. During their bickering, they hear a noise that sounds like maybe an animal or something, and they start wandering deeper into the cave.
What made the noise?
Well, the egg was about to hatch.
Okay.
Meanwhile, above the planet, a tiny ship has arrived and is shooting at Voyager. They stop shooting and take a position below Voyager. Tuvok and Chakotay determine they seem to be protecting something on the planet.
Yeah, it's a cool-looking little ship. I do like the visual effects in Voyager. They have a great look to the show.
Neelix and Tom eventually find footprints in the cave that lead them to a nest with some very large eggs.
I was expecting them to run into Odo and a Cardassian having a meeting.
One of the eggs breaks open, and inside is a very strange alien puppet baby.
Oh, my thought on this was, they run into some eggs. Have none of you watched Aliens? Run, you fools.
Yeah, run away.
Yeah.
This alien made me really think about the Gorn babies on Strange New Worlds and the difference between what they look like and what this puppet looks like.
Yes. Well, I kept on thinking of, do you remember the show Dinosaurs?
Oh, yes. This baby is absolutely a cross between the baby dinosaur from the TV show Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And E.T. And I'm not sure what the third thing is, maybe a rubber chicken. It is the weirdest. This is the weirdest alien we've ever seen on Star Trek. Come on.
It was very strange. Seriously, Dinosaurs had ended, I think, a year before this episode came out. Yeah. And I'm like, is this a refugee from that series?
It's something. It's wild.
Well, it's funny how animated they made it because its eyebrows were going as well. I will say, it's a really cool little puppet. I thought it worked. Even if it's a bit goofy, I think it worked.
Well, I mean, E.T. was pretty goofy, Looking back on it now, you can't not laugh. Back up on Voyager, we found a window for the transporter is opening in about 30 minutes. B'Elanna says if we take Voyager inside the atmosphere of Planet Hell, we'll have a better chance of finding Tom and Neelix and beaming them out. Tuvok also has a plan to get by the hostile ship. He has detected a vulnerability in their shield configuration. Chakotay jumps in and steps on his idea before Tuvok can complete his presentation. Which, by the way, is very crappy leadership. Don't do that, but it is Chakotay.
Well, yes. I mean, as you said, he was brain dead a few episodes ago.
That's right.
I think Tuvok, though, does need to maybe be a little bit quicker on his delivery. It was a very Vulcan delivery.
Get to the point.
All the way through from first concepts.
But at the same time, I do think Janeway likes to hear all of the story.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, he probably does know that, yeah.
Or maybe she could start by saying, if we... whatever the technobabble was of the thing they were going to shoot. If we did that, we could disable their weapons. And then, because blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, work backwards from what the solution is.
Exactly.
It's also another example here of Action Janeway. B'Elanna comes up with one idea, and Janeway is immediately...
do it. Yeah. And then Tuvok has one idea, and she's like, do it.
One of the things that's just kind of cool with Janeway is the fact that she's just this leader of action.
Mm-hmm.
It really does go throwback all the way to TOS of Kirk, of... this is what we're doing.
Agreed.
It's not kind of the Picard approach.
No. And they're on such a different mission, it makes sense that it wouldn't be the same approach.
Yeah, needs must.
Well, now Tom is scanning the baby lizard chicken. And he says, this thing will have the ability to stand upright. It has the skeletal structure of a humanoid, and he declares it sentient.
This was the bit with the whole eyebrows, where it was like the face was going. It was very well articulated or animated. Were we not just laughing our heads off back in the day?
Oh, we must have, because it is just ridiculous. Neelix wonders where its parents are. Tom says most reptiles lay their eggs and then just leave them, but that's not exactly what we're dealing with here, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom wants to vacate the cave, but Neelix says they blocked off the entrance and its mother might be trapped outside, and even if it gets in, it might now reject the baby because they've tampered with the nest. And Tom still wants to go, but Neelix says, this creature is our responsibility.
This was kind of oddball because Neelix is not wrong here.
No, he's not. Especially since they've determined it's sentient or has the potential to be.
Right. Tom is supposed to be the Starfleet one, but I guess maybe Tom isn't quite as Starfleet as we used to.
Well, shall we again talk about the stupid Prime Directive?
Yes.
Because you should leave this alone. Maybe that's his reaction, is like, oh, no, this is a sentient being. We should have no part of it. Whereas Neelix is looking at it like, no, this is a baby, and we maybe now have caused it harm, and we have to do something about it. Yeah. One of the sort of few instances where Neelix is not being just an ass, right? This, to me, I almost feel like this would have been an interesting use of Neelix. Like, sometimes in watching Captain America, I get annoyed because Captain America is so sanctimonious about everything. Yes. But maybe that would have made a better Neelix. Imagine if he had been super sanctimonious about everything and protecting everything and wanting to do the right thing instead of the stupid character he's been so far.
Right.
Because in this moment, it's actually kind of cool that he's being like, what are you talking about? You can't walk away and leave this baby that we've now touched.
Yeah.
That could have been a really interesting way to develop Neelix.
That's a good concept. And having Tom pushing the, Prime Directive, can't interfere.
Right.
Not our problem.
Come on, there's no other podcast where Neelix has been compared to Captain America. It's never, I guarantee it's never happened.
That's a pretty wild comparison there.
And I just thought of it on the fly. Well, Tom designates Neelix as the baby's godfather, and Neelix notices the rubber lizard chicken thing is now shivering, and he wraps it in his jacket to calm it down. And then Tom says Neelix isn't the godfather, but the godmother, as the baby falls asleep. The father can hold a baby too, Tom, but okay.
It's good to see Tom adopting traditional 1950s gender roles. The other side of this, Neelix could be thinking, we can't leave the baby behind because deep-fried baby lizard is absolutely delicious.
Oh,
Plus, there was like 3 or 4 eggs in the little nest.
Yeah, there are a couple more eggs in there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like omelets for a week.
We only had enough money for one puppet, though. Imagine if they'd all opened.
Yeah, they probably would have actually devoured Tom and Neelix.
Oh my gosh. That would have been funny if then they turned like evil and started flying around and attacking them.
Oh, that would have been good. Those effects would have been expensive.
We couldn't afford that. Yeah, that's too expensive. Back on Voyager, we execute our plan to disable the weapons of the other ship. And now, in this scene, it looks like the ship is bigger than Voyager. In the previous scene, I thought it looked tiny. Perspective is weird, yeah.
But they did point out that its capabilities are pretty much on a par with Voyager.
In terms of weapons, yes. Yeah. So either it's bigger or smaller than Voyager. I have no idea. But either way, we've managed to disable their weapons, and now we head into the atmosphere. Down on the planet, the rubber chicken lizard baby is having some trouble breathing and refusing to eat the rations that they're trying to stuff in its mouth.
Yes, with no concept of whether these things might be poisonous to the baby alien.
Tom notices that the baby is chewing on Neelix's jacket and surmises that it's because of the residue from the trigemic vapors. They realize that the baby needs those vapors to survive, so they head over to the cave opening that they blocked to get it open and let some vapors in.
Yeah, which these idiots blocked.
Yeah, and I guess also get the baby out. Meanwhile, back at Voyager, the alien vessel is following Voyager down, but it doesn't have its weapons back.
Yeah.
It passes Voyager, and Tuvok says it's heading to the surface.
So I think by now we should have figured out that maybe the ship and the alien babies are somehow related here.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess Voyager doesn't know about the alien babies because they don't have contact.
Exactly. Down on the planet, we're really jumping back and forth.
Oh, yeah. A lot of quick cuts here.
They get the baby out of the cave, and Neelix is panicking that the baby is dying and it's their fault. And because of something Neelix says, Tom has an idea to fill a hypospray with the vapors and shoot it into the baby's mouth. This seems to work as the baby starts breathing again, and they seem happy to have accomplished something together.
Yep.
Voyager, meanwhile, is searching for the shuttle and their crew, and they've only got a few minutes before their window will close, so they need to get moving, because otherwise they're going to have to go back up again.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, on planet Hell, Neelix apologizes to Tom for the fight, but Tom says it wasn't all Neelix's fault. But Neelix says he's heard people talking about Tom, saying he used to be a coward and he couldn't be trusted. And he says it's so typical of Kes to befriend someone who really needs a friend. He says he got jealous and he was wrong, but Tom admits that Neelix's impressions of him aren't entirely wrong. He says he is attracted to Kes, but he's never going to do anything about it. He says he respects Neelix too much for that. I'm not sure about that part.
That one seems like a stretch.
Yeah. He says what Neelix heard about him used to be true, but it's not who he wants to be anymore. Tom says that Kes is devoted to Neelix, and nobody would stand a chance. And this makes Neelix say, wait a minute, you mean there's others? Not just you? And it's like, maybe we're not quite over the jealousy stuff.
Yeah.
Tom says he's just going to be Kes's friend as long as Neelix doesn't mind. And Neelix says, I don't pick Kes's friends for her, which isn't exactly true.
I just get upset if she has them.
Yes, but this was clearly the point of the entire episode.
Yeah.
We had to look at, do we get the point of the episode always at right around 39 minutes?
Oh, that could be a good analysis to do.
It could be. When do we get the lesson?
Yeah. This scene also does reiterate that theme in Non Sequitur with Tom about him, what would happen to him if he hadn't got this. Because he does say he has a second chance and he doesn't intend to blow it.
Right.
Which is, again, I think, demonstrating that side of Tom of Starfleet. This is what he wants to do. And he really screwed up badly last time.
Right. Yeah. Janeway finally is able to call, and she asks if they've encountered any life forms, and Tom is like, yeah, but they're quite young. He says they found a nest, and Janeway warns them there's a ship that they encountered and says that ship has landed near their location. She wants to beam them up, but Neelix wants to make sure that the baby's parents don't reject it.
Yeah.
And Neelix asks if she's in a big rush to leave, and she's like, did you hear what I just said? Which really made me laugh. They've only got a few minutes. But Neelix wants to make sure the baby's okay, so he hides with Tom as they realize an alien is approaching.
Yeah, and Tom delivers a great line where he says, if you hear muffled screams, it's time to beam us out.
Yeah, please beam us out.
Yeah. Well, Harry as well gives them like a minute and a half before they have to beam them out.
Right. Well, then an alien with humanoid features, but a decidedly non-human head and face turns up.
Oh, yeah. Good effects here. Great makeup. The whole prosthetic thing looked really good.
It looks kind of familiar to an alien we've seen before, but I couldn't really put my finger on it.
Yeah.
When the alien lizard person picks up the baby and then turns to growl at Neelix and Tom, they think, okay, the baby's okay, let's get out of here, and they request a beam out.
Yeah, time to go. Its parent seems quite happy to see it.
Definitely. When they beam back to Voyager, Kes is waiting for them, and Neelix wants to open some disgusting-sounding rare bottle of something to celebrate the birth of their new baby lizard chicken friend.
Yes, chicken secretions, or bird secretions, as he calls it.
Yeah. And it seems like we're all friends now.
Everything is well in the world again.
The end. Yes. All right.
That was very reminiscent of the ending of season 1. We're in the last minute with Tuvok. It's like, oh, you are a cool dude. Oh, we're all pals now.
Yeah, there's this scene where the guy's like, well, if you can break the rules, I guess I can follow them. Like, oh my God, I'm so stupid.
Tuvok bent the rules.
Yes. Okay, do you have overanalysis?
I do not have a lot of overanalysis, but I was thinking it was funny with this alien race. They've got this planet in the back end of nowhere that's pretty hostile, but has the right conditions for their eggs, and a load of freaking mammals turn up and ruin everything.
Yeah. Remember that asteroid we found with all the dead bodies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like their tomb or cemetery or something. But this is like this alien race's nursery is here because it's like the perfect place for the eggs to go. Although really, I mean, where are you going? If you need to protect, you can't just leave the eggs completely.
Yeah, you think if they're a advanced technological race like this, leave a ship behind. Leave several ships behind, maybe.
Leave somebody to protect the poor eggs, especially when they're that close to hatching. Come on, people.
Right. And I think my next thing is, I'm really fascinated with these aliens. Is this planet like their homeworld? Was this their original homeworld, which has an atmosphere like this, and they moved away because it's bad for technology? Or is this just a planet that has the right conditions for them?
Well, we don't know because the planet is shrouded again, like we've seen on previous episodes where we're unable to scan it. So there could be more of them there.
Right. Because I was thinking, if you develop this technology and your planet, your home world is so hostile to it, maybe you actually live somewhere else. You live and work somewhere else, and you just drop the kids off at the nursery.
Maybe, but this was the only Class M planet nearby.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, some headcanon here. Perhaps this alien race, their procreation is highly regulated by the state, and this is an illegal hatching planet. They have this hierarchical society where the lower classes are only allowed hatchlings with the permission of the ruling class. And this is the world where they can quietly have baby dinosaurs without the interference from the state.
I mean, okay. Or maybe it's a human, except they're not human, trafficking racket.
Lizard tracking.
Baby
reptile.
lizard, baby chicken lizard, baby trafficking. I hope it's not that way.
Wow, you've gone one darker than me. Nice.
Well, I'm just wondering if what they were trying to tell us was these babies, when they're hatched, they need those sort of toxic vapors, but maybe they don't actually live in those vapors. You know what I mean? So this was like the perfect planet for the babies.
Kind of like, what do you call them, amphibians, where they have to reproduce in water, but they live outside of it.
Yeah, they don't need it to live, but it's good for the babies. I mean, it's strange that they would only find one nest then, and there's just one alien there. So there's something fishy about it. Okay, here's another thing. Maybe this is like their home planet, which is just isn't nearby, but these aliens, they just accidentally had to lay their eggs there when they were on this planet doing some research or something.
Yeah.
Or trying to gather some samples. And it was like, oh, eggs are coming out. But you can't move them because it's too dangerous, so they just left the eggs there, and then they came back to them. Maybe it's that simple.
Oh, maybe it was just a timing thing. If they were actually on their way back, and Voyager happened to be there at the right or the wrong time.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think as a high concept, it's actually really interesting sci-fi about an alien race. They're highly technically advanced, but their basic biology means you're back to this kind of thing.
Sure.
It would lead to the question of, if you are this advanced technology, why you couldn't produce some kind of artificial environment for the eggs, for the hatchlings. But I think as a science fiction concept, I really do like that part of the story.
Or maybe, we don't know if that was the father or mother, but maybe they had an affair. One of them had an affair, and they didn't want the other one to find out. So they hid the babies on this planet. Oh,
so following something like a Janeway holonovel approach, these are the illegitimate offspring of the ruling class of whatever this alien race is. They're the king or the queen's other offspring.
Sure. This is a good example of something where it's like, we don't explain it. It's just how it is.
That's just the way the world is.
Okay.
And I would bring up the shuttles again, but...
Well, I think the problem is we went a day out of our way, right? Another detour.
Yeah.
That we get nothing out of it, and we lose a shuttle. Or at least
potentially
break a shuttle.
Yeah.
And it's like, we got to be asking ourselves, what are we doing? Because all that did is deplete your resources again, even more. So it just seems like a bad move.
I think the problem is that they're in a state where they're having to take these chances because things are on the edge.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They only have 30% of their resources. And this goes back to something you said. They're not playing that up because you wouldn't want to watch that show where we're a day away from starving to death.
It's not the Star Trek that I want to watch,
So they downplay that, but they make it part of the storyline.
Yeah.
For a moment there, I was also worried that Janeway was going to use up another one of the 52 or 57 photon torpedoes.
The photons, me too. But she didn't.
Yeah.
I did read that the point of this episode was to move beyond Neelix's jealousy because it was so annoying. So thank God for that. At least we got through that in this episode.
Well, I don't have any other over-analysis, so over to you.
I don't really, there's not a lot to analyze. Yeah. I imagine that baby lizard thing, I imagine it growing up and carrying Neelix's jacket around like a binky. I mean,
funny.
That's quite funny when you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, if I go to women in the future, it's not great. I mean, why on earth would the Doctor be extolling the virtues of men fighting over women at this juncture? It's so one-dimensional and insulting to women that they should be flattered by it. It's rude, and it's a total step backwards for this show and for Star Trek. I found that scene just really embarrassing. Like, what are we doing?
you could have made it a scene that worked if the Doctor was coming from, like you said, like with Odo and the detective novels, the Doctor had been reading or playing Janeway's romance novels and saying, almost coming in with a surprise thing of, but these novels make it appear like it's a delightful thing or a noble thing. Something like that.
Yeah, because he mentioned something about literature when Kes says something like, her people, they find a mate and they mate for life. And he says something about, oh, your literature must be quite boring. So he's obviously drawing from that. But okay, then tell me that's where you're drawing from and list a bunch of different things. Don't just say that one thing. Like, there's another, I can't think exactly of when, but there's another episode where he just starts listing off, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this.
Yeah.
Just something scientific or medical. It's like, do that same thing here. Well, this could be happening. This list off 10 different things. One of them could be, maybe you should be flattered by it from ancient texts that I read, whatever. But we don't do that.
My series of romance novels seem to portray this as a positive thing.
Yeah, anything would have been better. So that, not great. Women in the future, step backwards.
Yeah, not a win.
If I go to Janeway's leadership corner, I have only two things. And one, Chakotay stepping on Tuvok's reveal of his idea. I mean, that is... It's a tiny thing in this episode, but that is not how you lead. The second thing is, I would say, when Tom and Neelix started on their little mission, Tom at least tried to be the grown-up on the mission, and he tried to keep them on task. I mean, Neelix not so much, but again, he's also not trained and not part of Starfleet. But at least Tom was trying to show leadership in that moment. And he was trying to be like, okay, I'm in charge of this mission. I'm going to keep you alive. I'm going to keep me alive. I thought that was pretty positive.
Well, I think that, again, leans into Tom. I'm not going to screw it up this time. He's been a screw up in the past.
Exactly, yeah.
He really is trying to live up to the ideal. I do feel that Robert Duncan McNeill is really doing the very best he possibly can with somewhat clunky material.
Yeah,
I think if you didn't have someone as good as him, this would come off as terrible.
Yeah, I also read that they were trying to get Tom back into a story because they hadn't really been using him enough.
Yeah.
And he's pretty good in this episode.
What is the line, like, actors overcoming the source material? I feel that's what he's doing.
Well, let's go to rating from here.
Yes.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Oh, this is another really tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Until the alien part of the show, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Post the aliens part of the show, neutral. I like the sci-fi concept, but it's not a great episode, and it's not a great rewatchable episode, and I don't think it's good enough to give it a thumbs up. So I'm going to have to go with a neutral and move on with my life.
I do understand. Star Trek can be so wild sometimes. Like, what even is this episode? It's absolutely weird.
It reminds me of DS9, where we'd have those episodes where, like, this is absolutely breathtaking. And then an episode or two later, we'd be like, what just happened?
We'll go to Ryza and have some idiotic episode.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that's that old episodic television, right? Where we had to fill 25 or 26 of them.
We got 26 slots to fill. 6 of them are going to be whatever's in the bottom drawer.
Well, this episode, it's not great. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Just like you said, it's terrible for the first 20 or so minutes. Yeah. So at least half of it, or almost half of it, is terrible. The jealousy stuff is bad. The reductive 1950s analysis by the Doctor about Kes is terrible. It's actually embarrassing and uncomfortable. So I can't in good conscience give it a thumbs up. And I can't even really give it a neutral, even though the first part of it is the bad part and the rest of it is fine. I'm just going to thumbs down it as kind of a warning beacon to others. You can skip this. It's fine. Neelix and Tom, I'll just summarize it for you. Neelix and Tom found a way to work together. The end. There is one thing I could have said in overanalysis, which is...
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about teamwork and working with teams is when you do have to work together to solve something, like in this case, keep the baby chicken lizard alive.
Yeah.
You really do bond. It can really be sort of life-changing for you and for the other members of your team that you really do become closer over that. And it's not that you become best friends, but you just learn you can rely on each other. So that's what I mean, where there were things in this episode that's like, that's okay. But does it make up for all the other stuff? Nah, you don't need to watch this.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary. I wouldn't put it high on my rewatchable list.
Yeah, it's definitely not rewatchable. I guess unless you want to really examine that wild puppet. because it is wild.
Well, the puppet is the standout. I mean, it's really well done.
I couldn't figure out what it reminded me of, but it really mixed in E.T. and dinosaurs.
In dinosaurs, yeah, exactly.
And I think, too, there's probably something in a Muppet movie somewhere that looks similar.
It also feels a little bit like Fraggle Rock.
Maybe it's Fraggle Rock. Didn't they bring back Fraggle Rock? I think it's on Apple TV now.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I think we've wrapped up Season 2, Episode 7. Come back next week for Episode 8. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own over-analysis of this, sure, or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at rebingeit@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on the socials. We are on the thing that used to be called Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, all at Rebingeit. And you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the Rebinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.